So today I was going to try to open up a couple more of the Magic the Gathering Jumpstart packs. So the first one is Swamp, and it looks like it's going to be minions for the theme. The first card is Kel's Fight Fixer. It's a 4/3 legendary creature where the creature type is Azra Warlock. Costs 2 and 2 swamps. Has Menace. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, you may pay an island or a swamp. If you do, draw a card. And then in parentheses it tells you what I just said, that island swamp can be paid with either island or swamp. And then the mana ability at the bottom, you can pay one colorless, sacrifice a creature. Kel's Fight Fixer gains indestructible until end of turn. So that's kind of nifty where you can have this 4/3 creature with Menace gain indestructible for 1 and sacrificing a creature. Next we have Witch's Cauldron. It's an artifact that costs a swamp, and you pay 1 in a swamp and tap Witch's Cauldron, sacrifice a creature, you gain 1 life and draw a card. And I can't remember what the card was, but I feel like there's a combo with this card that it's like a cat or something, that you use this to sacrifice a cat and then you somehow get something and bring the cat back. I haven't played against that particular combo in a while, so I don't remember exactly how it works. The next card is Bone Picker. It's a 3/2 bird that costs 3 in a swamp. This spell costs 3 less to cast if a creature died this turn. Where it's a bird, seems pretty obvious that it has flying. It also has Death Touch, which is kind of cool. 3/2 flying Death Touch. Costs 3 in the swamp, so it's right around on par with what you'd expect for the mana cost. Not anything super crazy, but not anything mediocre either. Next card, Eliminate. It's 1 in a swamp. It's an instant. Destroy target creature or planeswalker with converted mana cost 3 or less. So kind of early on kill spell. Obviously mid to late game you might have stuff that costs more than 3 mana, so it won't be helpful against that stuff, but at least dealing with early on it'll be helpful. Next we have Gormand. It's a 5/5 demon that costs 4 and 2 swamps. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. It has flying and trample. When Gormand enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature. So, I mean, it's decent. the only drawback is, you're sacrificing a creature, but if you have something to get stuff from your graveyard, or if you have something that's good, the more stuff you have in the graveyard, then great. And I mean, obviously, 5/5 flying trample, it's nice to have a big creature that does stuff. Next, we have Instant Blood. It's a sorcery that costs a swamp. Each player sacrifices a creature. Next is Crypt Lurker. It's a 3/4 horror. When Crypt Lurker enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature or discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So, I mean, it has one of those conditions that you can, do something to draw a card where it's, within black. It sort of punishes you almost. You have to sacrifice something or discard something to draw that card. But if you don't have that many cards in your hand, it could be helpful. Next we have Dutiful Attendant. It's a 1/2 human warrior for 2 in a swamp. When Dutiful Attendant dies, return another target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So, with all the other cards in this particular pack I'm opening, that you're sacrificing creatures, this one particular one lets you bring one from your graveyard to your hand when this guy dies. So, I mean, it's a 1/2. It's nice to have something on the battlefield. If it happens to die, no biggie, you can, get something from your graveyard. Next, we have Ghoul Caller's Accomplice. It's a 2/2 human rogue that costs 1 in a swamp. And you can pay 3 in a swamp, exile Ghoul Caller's Accomplice from your graveyard. Create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. Next we have Nocturnal Feeder. It's a 2/1 vampire rogue that costs 2 in a swamp. It has it has flying, which, some vampires in Magic seem to have. I don't know statistically, if all of them do, if it's just a high percentage, I don't recall. When Nocturnal Feeder dies, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So, again, kind of common theme with vampire cards and Magic, your opponent losing life and you gaining life because of the card. Next we have Chamberlain Goblin. It's a 1/1 zombie goblin for just a swamp. When Chamberlain Goblin dies, target creature an opponent controls get -1/-1 until end of turn. So, I mean, it's a small, little creature that only costs a single mana, but if it dies, you could look at the opponent's creatures on the battlefield and be like, oh, that's only a 1/1, I'm gonna give it -1/-1, kill it off. Or if you're, attacking and your opponent blocks your 3/3 with their 4/4, well, that puts then that creature that's blocking down to 1/1, and then you could have this -1/-1 go to that creature to finish it off, so to speak. So I think we saw this in some of the other Jumpstart packs. This is Thriving More. It's a land that non-basic land. Thriving More enters the battlefield tapped. As Thriving More enters the battlefield, choose a color other than black, and you can tap this for either a swamp or 1 mana of the chosen color. And the next card is Village Rites. It's an instant that costs a swamp. As additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. So again, it might be a cheap mana cost, but because it's black, you're sacrificing something to draw cards. And the rest is just the swamps, the basic lands. And if you check back later tonight, I should have another video for the other pack. So hopefully you enjoy this and keep checking back. Thanks.